everyone who isn't a Queenslander who invests in Queensland property as well as elsewhere will have the decision about whether or not they're eligible, whether they fit under the tax-free threshold, and the rate at which they pay land tax assessed on the basis of the property they own everywhere, not just in Queensland. And this is a radical change. And its practical effect is to charge people who aren't Queenslanders higher rates of land tax. Now, you might think that that just means that the people who are going to have a vote aren't going to be affected by the tax. But by making a disincentive for people to become landlords in Queensland, a disincentive to invest, you're taking rental supply out of the market and you're stopping people from investing in future supply. Another example of the kind of policies they brought in that have done harm is to rebalance tenancy laws in a way that tips the scales well and truly in favour of tenant. And that means it's a less attractive place for a landlord to invest. Why would you go to a jurisdiction where you've got no rights when you can have more control over your property in a more friendly jurisdiction? In addition to that, they have an ideological bent against community housing, which is when not-for-profits come in and help to provide some of that low-cost, accessible housing. And as a consequence, while New South Wales and Victoria and other states are getting hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment from the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation to go into low-cost housing, Queensland has only $5 million because they want to see it all government-owned. They don't want to bring in the community. And the combined effect of all of this stuff is just to deepen a crisis that is really of Labor's making.
Can you just elaborate on that federal financing, though? How does that work?
So the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation is a federal body, and its job is to assess applications for low or no interest loans to, and the pool is well over $1 billion, to go to not-for-profit and community organisations who want to develop sustainable models for providing low-cost housing in the parts of our community that need it most. The difference is between a big government, which inevitably means big expense model, like what Queensland wants to see. And they want that because construction through the Department of Public Works is union controlled and they get to help their mates in the CFMMEU and the like, versus something that's more flexible, more adapted to the communities that are being served and that are going to be managed by, in essence, the community. And they don't like that. They want to keep their fingers in the pie and the assets on their balance sheet. Ultimately, this comes down to Labor wanting to help their union mates in Queensland, as well as keep any help they can get on their balance sheet, when what they should be focused on instead is how do we stop vulnerable women from sleeping with their kids in cars? How do we stop people with mental health concerns from sleeping on our streets? There are solutions that are paying dividends in other states, and it is downright irresponsible for Queensland to refuse to even look at them.